into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Hey, you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me on Monday. Memorial Day is a day of gratitude and remembrance. Today, we celebrate freedom, but we remember the cost. Today, we appreciate the sacrifices of our veterans and their families. We love our military. We love their families. We remember today and every day to thank our military heroes who have sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. And I wonder if you could join me in doing something this Memorial Day. It's so simple, but it can mean so much. It's easy, but it can go an awfully long way. If you know a veteran, or if you know the family of a fallen soldier, call them up. Call them up and say thank you. Let them know that you appreciate what they've done for you as an individual and for all of us as a country. Thank you goes an awful long way. And if that's you, if you are a veteran or if you're the family member of a fallen soldier, I want to thank you. Thank you so much. Memorial Day is a day for me where I think about both my grandfathers who fought in the Second World War. And you know, they're both decorated war heroes. They didn't die during the Second World War. But they're no longer with us. My grandfather on one side was a naval aviator. He flew a Grumman Avenger in the Pacific, shot down behind enemy lines at Iwo Jima. Survived, decorated, came home, raised a family, 5 kids, bought a house, half of which he built by himself with his own 2 hands. Friends from work. Hey, you know how to put in plumbing? Yeah, sure. Could you help me this weekend? Yeah, absolutely. That kind of collaboration, that kind of can-do attitude, that spirit of pride in the defense of our country that he took. A very modest thing where he wouldn't talk about it much at all. But was unquestioning in the idea of doing it. Makes me think of him, my father, who he fought for England. He was English. He was part of British intelligence. Stormed the beaches at Normandy. Kissed by de Gaulle. What's funny is when he told by de Gaulle, he would wipe his hand across his face like he was brushing off the kiss. It was this tremendous honor, but he was like, de Gaulle's this sort of like imperialist that still wants to rule large chunks of the world, and that's silly. He didn't say it, but that's what he meant. Both of my grandparents were heroes. Both of them really didn't talk too much about any of it. But it made me think, this Memorial Day coming up, it made me think about both of my grandfathers, and it made me think about your relatives who might have fought in one war or another. And they fought for us. They fought for our freedom. They fought for the freedom of the world in the case of the Second World War. And you know, freedom is freedom. It's a freedom to do the things that you want to do. Not necessarily always the greatest stuff. And while our veterans that we pay tribute to on Memorial Day fought for our freedom to be whatever it is we wanted to be in this America, I don't think that our veterans, those that we lost, and I know specifically my two grandfathers, I don't think they fought for an America that is as divided as we find ourselves in 2017. And it made me think about a great way to honor those that were no longer around this Memorial Day. I'll share with you next. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you.
Let's start the show. Real radio.
104.1. Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
Do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that.
It's Memorial Day. There's a bunch of ways you can celebrate Memorial Day. Really simple thing that you can do. We talked about it earlier. You could, if you know a veteran or the family of a fallen soldier, call them. Say thank you. Let them know that you appreciate what they have done for you as an individual and what you appreciate, and that you appreciate what they've done for us as a country. If you own a business, give a discount to a veteran. Visit a cemetery or a grave. Of our fallen heroes. Leave a flower. Leave a flag. Do this so you think and appreciate and remember the cost of our freedom. It's an excellent thing to have in your heart. The other thing I was thinking about, as I was saying earlier, when I think back to my grandparents, my grandfather on my mom's side and my grandfather on my dad's side, both decorated heroes in the Second World War. On my dad's side, member of the British intelligence that stormed the beach at Normandy and helped plan the storming of the beaches at Normandy. On my mom's side, a naval aviator. Grandfather flew a Grumman Avenger in the Pacific. Had incredible stories that he was incredibly reluctant to share because he was so humble. And I think about my two grandmothers as well. Not knowing if their husbands were coming back from war. What that must have put them through. As they, especially on the English side, with a stiff upper lip, thought about the eventuality of their husbands not coming home. Now, fortunately, both my grandfathers did come home. They're no longer with us, but they came home. And when I think about Memorial Day and when I think about what our heroes are fighting for, I think about these two men. And I know, and I can't speak for any relatives of yours that may have fought for one reason or another, but I know that my two grandparents that were people that put their lives on the line for our freedom, they were kind people. They were loving people. One grandfather on my mom's side, when he retired, he opened up a home in Rochester, New York. My grandmother and my grandfather opened up a home in Rochester, New York, and they were very closely involved with their church. And they opened up this place. I think they bought, it's interesting. I think they bought a place where I think nuns lived there. Massive house, and it actually had a little chapel with stained glass. and an organ in it. It was amazing going in there. But it had rooms and rooms and rooms. And I would go over there, and they called it the House of God's Goodness. And there were I was too young to really know what was up. And I don't know if it was a halfway house, but I know they opened up a home to help people. They were not people of judgment. They were people of charity. And bought an enormous home. They'd always had a big family with 5 kids, and they also took in exchange students and all this sort of stuff. They always had a big, loud, bustling home. And they bought this huge house that I guess had at some point been a place where, I don't know, nuns hung out or priests in training. I'm not sure what the deal was, but like I said, it was this massive house with many, many, many rooms and a chapel in it. And when I would go over there, there were all these different people staying there. And I asked my mom, is this person related to us? Why are they always around? What's the deal? And she was like, well, no, your grandmother and your grandfather wanted to help people. And so folks that needed some help finding their way in life, getting on their feet. My grandparents did that. I remember walking into the kitchen one day, and this woman had been living there for a while. She was really nice, but she was having kind of a tough time for some reason or another. And even as a kid, I picked up on that. There was something about her that was afraid. And I remember walking into the kitchen one day and seeing my grandmother holding her hand and saying, you have to do this. You go down to that grocery store and you tell them, I will be the best worker you have ever had. You cannot open up this store without hiring me. You will be missing out on such an opportunity. I have such a desire to serve you and serve the community as part of this store. You have to hire me before you open this grocery store. There was my grandmother counseling someone that had lost their way into how they could get back into life, get back on track. And like I said, I was very young at the time, but it showed me something very important about my grandparents.
Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day, and for part of the battle, just back down, better act like you know. Come on.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah, give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So, it is Memorial Day, and Memorial Day has made me think, like I was saying earlier, about my 2 grandfathers, both of whom fought in the Second World War, and made me think about the types of people that they were and why they were fighting. My grandfather on my mom's side, well, both sides, kind of brilliant men. Like my grandfather on my mom's side got a full ride to Cornell, scholarship there. But it's funny, he worked his way up to the very top after the war. And he said early on he learned that he was much more comfortable. He would always say this. He was much more comfortable among the little shots than the big shots. I like that. He was very passionate about doing a great job at what he was doing and felt he was a little shot. Even though he rose to the top of the company, he felt he was, like I said, a little shot. Which to me is great pride in your work, no matter what it is you're doing. But like I said, Memorial Day makes me think about the kind of person my grandfather was. And my grandfather and my grandmother, like I said, not opened up because it wasn't open to the public. I don't know where they found these people, but they had a large home. After all their kids left, after their big family was no longer at home, they kind of started a new family. And they bought this big house. They called it the House of God's Goodness. It was formerly a place where nuns or priests or some sort of religious folks trained. And I know this because there was a chapel in there. It had stained glass. It had an organ. And also there were rooms and rooms and rooms. There was a big house. And like I said, I'll never forget this one time where my grandmother was counseling. And by counseling, I mean just talking to her. But this woman who had been hanging around the house, and like I said, I was really young, so I didn't really fully appreciate the scope of the situation, but I could see that she was kind of timid, scared, like something rough had happened to her, unsure, unsteady. And I remember walking into the kitchen and seeing my grandmother holding her hand saying, you must go down to that grocery store and tell them you cannot open up this grocery store without giving me a job first. You will be missing out on the opportunity of employing someone who wants to serve you and serve this community through doing an amazing job at this store. And like I said, I don't know where they found folks that maybe lost their way a little bit or needed some help, but that's what they wanted to do. They weren't judgmental. They were charitable. And they wanted to help the people around them, regardless of who they were or what they'd been through. And I saw that in action. And it was a powerful thing to see. And then on the other side of the equation, my other grandfather, guy who risked his life in the Second World War, same as the other grandpa did. He was a man who, well, it didn't matter who you were. He had this incredible ability to make everyone he came in contact with feel special. Didn't matter if you were, and again, he's sort of very kind of educated dude, went to Oxford, got a first, which means I think he graduated first in his class, spoke like 6-7 languages. He ran a really big company. That was his thing. And interestingly enough, like my other grandfather, wasn't into anything ostentatious. Nothing over the top. Very successful guy that didn't like to flaunt it. Humble individual. But I think part of the reason that my grandfather went as far as he did, besides the fact that he worked really, really hard at his education, then worked really, really hard at his jobs, was because he didn't care who you were. You could have been his garbage man. You could have been someone that asked him the time on the street. You could have been the president of a company. You could have been a captain of industry. You could have been one of his military comrades. He would give you, and it didn't matter who you were, his full attention. When he was talking to you, he was talking to you and listening to you and taking in everything that you said and everything that you had to say, and was very aware of your feelings. I guess what I'm trying to say is that both my grandfathers cared about people. They were not discriminatory. When they went off to war, they were fighting for all of us, regardless of politics, regardless of what was in our past. Never forget seeing my grandparents on my mom's side taking these people and go, wow, these are some folks who, as my mom would tell me later, maybe hadn't done the greatest things with their lives up to this point. Maybe had done some stupid things, maybe done some wrong. But they wanted to help. They wanted to help them get back on their feet. They wanted to help them find their way in the world again. And I think about my two grandparents fighting in the war. And I think about the wives they left at home who were unsure if their husbands would return and what that put everyone through. And then I think about the charity of their natures and their love and their empathy and their compassion toward all the people around them. And then I thought about the America we're in here in 2017. Grandparents fight in a war so that we could argue with each other on Facebook about who was an idiot because they voted for somebody that you didn't agree with? Did they risk their lives? Did they risk leaving their children fatherless so that we could be petty and bicker? Sit behind keyboards? Get angry at people we don't even know? Go on the attack against our fellow American with vitriol and venom and no thought to the fact that there's a human being on the other side whose life we know nothing about? No, they did not. And like I said, any veterans or fallen heroes that you may know or members of your family, but I know from my two grandparents, I know they fought for freedom. I know they fought for America. They did not fight so that we could bicker amongst ourselves. They did not fight so we could degrade the integrity of the America or the England, in my other grandfather's case, that they had sworn to protect, that they risked their lives protecting. So like I said, there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do to honor someone on Memorial Day. Please call the family of a fallen soldier. Visit a cemetery or a grave. Leave flowers or a flag. Think about their sacrifice. Like I said, if you own a business, maybe give a discount to veterans. Maybe attend a parade today to pay tribute to those who have sacrificed their life. They are our heroes, and they should be treated as such. Today we celebrate freedom, and we remember the cost. And besides calling the family of a fallen soldier, bearing in mind who my grandparents were as people, the type of men and women that my grandparents and their wives were, I think a great way to honor their memory and to honor the sacrifice of all fallen soldiers is to be decent to your fellow American. Simple, honest, open decency. Today is a day where I'm going to honor the memory of my grandfathers by abstaining from judgment and trying to keep in my heart the love for my fellow American, the kindness toward my fellow American, the support for my fellow American that my grandfathers had and that my grandfathers fought for. So thank you very much, and happy Memorial Day. And thank you for joining us. And I hope you're having an awesome one. And I think for the rest of the show, seeing as folks are probably headed to and from whatever kind of celebration you're attending, let's try and keep things a little bit light, shall we, Funkhouser? Shall we do a little bit of news?
Fine, sure, fine.
We could also, do we want to talk about movies this weekend? Like, it's a big Memorial Day weekend.
Well,
you gonna go see Baywatch, Funkhouser?
Well, I was planning on seeing Alien.
Oh, the new Alien movie. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm going to be giving the Baywatch movie a big old misseroo.
Really? It's got good, it looks like it's good.
No monosyllabic tree man or talking raccoon equals AD Nowachi. Besides, I prefer Baywatch as it was intended. An awful, 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 awful TV show.
It wasn't that awful. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, it was.
Another reason why you might not want to go see Baywatch this weekend, or why you might be skipping Baywatch this weekend. You lost your eyesight after you were body slammed by a Montana politician. What the hell was that all about?
Hey, that guy won.
I know.
And in his acceptance speech, he said he was sorry.
As he should have. Oh my God!
Wow, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a little insane. Do you have the video somewhere, Funkhouser?
It just happened like very recently, so I don't know
if you don't know what we're talking about. If you don't know what we're talking about, we'll find video and tweet it.
I'm sure by now everyone's heard about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know that whole tolerance thing? You know the whole tolerance thing that we were calling for? Not tolerance. I hate that word. Tolerance is one of the... I don't have to tolerate anything. That just puts people on the defensive. You know that openness and giving nature we were talking about that my grandparents fought for? That's like the polar freaking opposite of that. I don't think my grandfathers fought for an America where you could assault someone and then go on to get elected. But it does make for quite the story.
He really did look sincere when he was apologizing. And then you heard people off mic, "We forgive you."
The reporter body slam heard around the world.
For a moment, I thought, hey, there's our next candidate for president right there. There's the guy. Check him out. Mr. Montana.
Yeah. Well, all right. What else?
Bill Cosby's lawyers say he won't get a fair trial because most of the jurors are white.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think he will do well out of this trial. He says because most of the jurors are white. Also because, he assaulted a bunch of women. There's always that. It's just like, it's impossible. Like, I mean, look, innocent until proven guilty. However, where there's that much smoke, stands to reason there's going to be a certain amount of fire. There could be a bit of a dogpile situation with people going like, oh yeah, Cosby did that to me too. And maybe not all the stories are true, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that a story was true, or some of the stories were true. No more news bed. Oh, quick. One more piece of news.
Tom Cruise says that Top Gun 2 will start shooting next year.
Yeah. In the sequel, Maverick will feel the need for... Cialis.
You just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again.
So if somehow you managed to miss it, if you don't know what Funkhouser and I were talking about, like, how did this get started? Oh, yeah. Reasons you might not go watch the new Baywatch movie.
It's like the WWE.
You got body slammed by a Montana politician who broke your glasses, so you can't go to the movie theater. What we're talking about,
and it wasn't just
the Republican candidate
either.
Yeah, the Republican candidate for Montana's congressional seat, and there's no video as of yet, but like the Republican candidate for Montana's congressional seat was heard in an audio recording body slamming this reporter, this guy Ben Jacobs, to the floor, breaking his glasses and shouting at him. So here's the audio of what went down.
And we'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have
Okay,
the
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time you came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
If you'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police. Can I get you guys' names?
Hey, you gotta leave.
He just body slammed me.
You gotta leave.
Not exactly becoming behavior for a politician. And in a different day and age, that might have been the end of his political career and definitely the campaign trail that he was on at the time. Career as a politician, over. Career as a WWE wrestler, off to a flying start. But he was elected. This guy was elected, and he gave his victory speech in which he addressed the body slam.
And sometimes hard work is born out of hard lessons. Last night, I learned a lesson. And no, please, I need to share something from my heart here. And I just ask you to bear with me. And when you make a mistake, you have to own up to it. That's the Montana way.
Amen, brother.
Last night I made a mistake. And I took an action that I can't take back. And I'm not proud of what happened. I should not have responded in the way that I did. And for that, I'm sorry.
And you're forgiven.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if she has the right to say that he's forgiven only because she wasn't the one who was body slammed and viciously assaulted as a reporter. Like, I don't know. I mean, I want to choose my words carefully here because we're at an interesting point in America's history. There has, I don't think, at least not in my adult lifetime, ever been such incredible mistrust in the media as there is now. A lot of people say the media, all these massive media outlets are run by billionaires that have huge, unscrupulous self-interests that they serve through their television networks and their print publications and their websites. And that the media is actively waging a war on people that are trying to do some good for their own selfish reasons. And so, without knowing anything about the history of this reporter from The Guardian and Greg Gianforte, a lot of people might go, good. The media needs to be body slammed. Yeah. And in some way, shape, or form, you can kind of understand where that might come from. But the idea that we have devolved to the levels of idiocracy where politicians physically assault reporters because they can't handle their line of questioning doesn't give me a good feeling. And at some point, and by the way, do you know how little most reporters make? Beat reporters, folks like that. I don't know what it is, but there seems to be this assumption that folks in the news media are making money hand over fist. Some people are. Some people at the very tippy-toppy are making money hand over fist. There's no doubt about it. When you get to the top of that game, you're probably making bazillions of dollars. Yes, it's true. Media is an interesting field because there's not really a middle class of media. Either you're doing really well for yourself or you are scraping it together and you are doing it because it's your calling. News is your calling. Reporting is your calling. Breaking the story is your calling. And I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that a guy that was covering an election in Montana for The Guardian isn't exactly raking it in. It's just a guy who was given a job to do. And he might have a political agenda. He might be absolutely against this dude. But he was doing his job. And for doing his job, he was physically assaulted, body slammed, had his glasses broken, and was humiliated. And like I said, I get the people that are like, yeah, the media as a whole deserves to be body slammed. Brr. But we're better than that. Or at least we want to be. No, we have to be. At some point, Republican, Democrat, up, down, left, right, side to side, whatever the hell it is, we've got to have each other's backs. Or at least not body slam each other because we can't take a line of questioning. That is not a cooler head that will prevail. A lot of people say we need our politicians to be tough and take no guff and strut their stuff. And yeah, but you can't have someone whose response to a tough question is physical assault in charge of too many things. It probably won't go well. Now, hey, maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of people that are super stoked, and I'm not in Montana. I don't know what the needs of people in Montana are the way that guy does. And people in Montana might... Great job for them. But it gives me the screaming heebie-jeebies and again takes me back to this idea that my grandparents did not fight in the Second World War so that we could body slam each other back here in America because we couldn't handle the words of another person that might disagree with us. People don't make the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
All right, one last time, let's take a listen to this. Republican candidate for Montana's congressional seat, a seat that he won, Greg Gianforte. And man, it sounds like a radio play, like old-timey radio where they put together sound effects because the audio tells such a story. And I don't think we have video of it yet. I'm imagining some will surface, but we'll have to wait and see. So one last time, as a reminder of what we're doing our best not to be. Let's take a listen to an excellent example of how to not go through life.
And we'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have the action
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time that came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
If you'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police. Can I get you guys' names?
Hey, you gotta leave.
He just body slammed me.
You gotta leave.
Uh-huh. So there's that. Like I said, I think that we as a species, and we as Americans, can aim a little freaking higher. Let's do some more news. Funkhouser.
Oh, okay. The FCC has decided not to take action against Stephen Colbert for his crude joke about President Trump.
Oh.
I loved it.
What time is Colbert on?
I think 11:35, isn't it?
11:35, yeah. I mean, we have this thing in broadcasting called Safe Harbor. If you're on after 10 o'clock, that's when you're supposed to air objectionable material. So, there you go. Man, you know what? I'm not trying to call myself out as a... I'm no Nostradamus, but a long time ago, last year, when things were getting heated, I was like, you know what? This is the end of an era. the respect for the office of President of these United States of America is done. And I can't really place my finger on exactly when it happened. I remember during Bush, there were a lot of people in Houston, after how Hurricane Katrina was handled. A lot of people who I knew that were diehard Republicans that went, you know what? I'm out. I'm no longer a Republican until this chucklehead is out of office. I am a conservative independent. And I think that was sort of like the beginning of the rise of libertarianism. People on the right that just couldn't get behind Bush. But even those people, there was with them, like I said, this modicum of respect, at least for the office of president. And I think we lost it right around Obama's second term when we started to lose it. I think that was when it all began to go badly south when it comes to respect for the office of president. And then as we were getting into this next election cycle, as we were seeing what would become Trump and Hillary square off, I was like, we're done. We are done. There was this idea for a while that you stand behind your president. And I think that's over. I would love it if we got back to it. But I was like, look at this split in the country. More or less 50-50 split. And we are going to enter into a situation where exactly one half of the country, no matter who it is that wins, will have unmitigated contempt hurled at them by one half of the country. That's it. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad because it feels as though a core American value has been eroded away. Like the idea of a talk show host going on TV and saying what Stephen Colbert said about Donald Trump. Look, lots of politicians took pot shots. Comedians took pot shots. A lot of comedians went after politicians kind of viciously. They have a different form. Comedians, stand-up comics in particular, have an access to the truth that traditional broadcasters don't. But the idea that you could have a late-night talk show host go on the air and say the things that he said, and you might agree with him, you might think it was a great idea to say them. But like I said, it's indicative of the fact that respect for the office of president is a thing of the freaking past. But yeah, the FCC has decided not to take action against Stephen Colbert for his joke about President Trump. And in related news, I believe Trump was spotted on Air Force One Googling, can the president fire the FCC? What else, Funkhouser?
HBO and Jon Stewart have decided not to move forward with an animated series about cable news.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't make the series as much of a cartoon as actual cable news is. Like, it's
hard to keep up with animation.
Also, I mean, I think the other thing, like Jon Stewart, I think finished up with The Daily Show because, well, I mean, he said it was depressing, but he also wanted to spend more time with his family. Being the producer of a cartoon is like animation's a very painstaking process. This is not an easy thing to get done. So I could see him going like, ooh, this is an awful lot of work. Yeah, I've made all the money. I'm trying to spend time with my family. No, thank you. What else?
Lance Armstrong announced that he's marrying the love of his life.
What, the disgraced Tour de France winning, steroid abusing
single
Lance Armstrong? Mm-hmm. He's marrying the love of his life?
The love of his life.
Oh, well, great. Congratulations to Lance Armstrong and performance-enhancing drugs. Go on.
The Pope looked tense and uncomfortable alongside President Trump.
Right, or as the world is now calling it, Melania-like.
No, he just has resting bitch face. That's what's...
The Pope?
Yeah. That's what's happening.
I see the Pope as being warm and cuddly. I think, whenever I see that guy, he's smiling and being cool to people.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
There's another side of that. He might have resting Pope face.
Resting Pope face? Yeah, go on.
The Pope gifted President Trump with a medallion of an olive tree.
Yeah. I think Trump reciprocated too. I think he gave the Pope something in return. What was it? Yeah, I think a 2-for-1 coupon for golf at Mar-a-Lago. Cocktails not included. Neither is tip. Go on.
Does the Pope golf?
I don't know. I don't know what the Pope does recreationally. I mean, he's got to have hobbies. Hobbies. Pope hobbies. You can't be completely entertained by wearing giant hats all the time. Go on.
The Pope asked Melania if she only feeds Donald Trump cake.
What?
The Pope asked Melania if she only feeds Donald Trump cake.
Pope got snaps. Pope got jokes. Pope jokes. Forget peace in the Middle East. Our president got the Pope to crack a fat joke at his expense.
Imagine the translator. Melania goes, "Excuse me, what you say?"
I am sure there's something lost in translation there. Because I know the Pope did not go up to the president of these United States of America and be like, "Damn, yo, you eat anything but cake? Too lazy to lift your own fork? Melania feeds it to you?"
I bet he did. I bet he straight up poped him out.
Yeah. Ashton Kutcher jumps out wearing a giant papal hat, being like, "Damn, you've been poped." Go on.
Donald and Melania Trump were photographed holding hands inside the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of hand-holding pictures being taken. Like, see, it happens. Here's photographic documentation.
Now you have to overdo it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was so silly. That whole, like, did she swat his hand away? I think entirely too much is being made of that. And you know what? Maybe Melania did swat his hand away, in which case he's only become more relatable to me, because everybody's been in that situation with their girlfriend or their wife where you're having a fight. You're like, there's people around. The office party. Yeah, like, can you be nice? Oh, yeah, I'll be nice. Just wait and see how nice I can be. Can't believe you said that in the car. Everybody's been through that for one reason or another, so it just makes me relate to him that much more. Not that I related to him much in the first place, and I have too much in common with a billionaire real estate tycoon, but nevertheless, made him that much more relatable to me, because I was like, hey, President Trump has the same problems as the rest of us. Sometimes you don't get along with your significant other. Sometimes it spills over in public. Oh, especially when you're doing stressful things like meeting world leaders. And if it sounds like I'm making excuses, I'm not. I'm just being realistic about the situation. It's just like, oh, what? You mean a married couple on a... When was the last time you went on a long road trip with a girlfriend or boyfriend? Did you have a bit of a disagreement somewhere along the way? You spend like 8 hours in the car with someone. It's not going to be all champagne and roses. No, you're going to have the occasional little skirmish. It's part of life. It's part of being a married couple.
I had problems getting lost all the time.
Who was doing the driving? You or her?
I was.
Oh, yeah? And so was she navigating?
No, I don't think so. I think I was doing all this stuff. That's what kind of...
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, if you're doing the driving, the other person should do the navigating. That's just the way it should be. I mean,
I don't know where I am.
Yeah. Somebody else has got to do the map reading. Especially if you're in parts of the world where you need to rely on a map. If you had to use a map, Funkhouser, would you know how to read it?
I think so. I'm bad with direction. I just have to focus a little harder with direction. But, like compass direction.
It's another thing. It's another thing that makes me feel like an absolute underachiever compared to my grandpa. Like the one on my English side of the family. He, part of what he did as British intelligence was he helped plan the raid at Normandy, and he was really, really good with maps. So he sort of like mapped it out. So this is where we're going in. This is how it's going to get and map reading, and making military plans based on the terrain and the idea of the terrain that he had and his sense of direct. Like he was basically someone who was amazing at looking at landscapes and maps and putting pictures together and helping the military assess how they were going to go in. I mean, he was actually a part of the military storming on the beach at Normandy. He was there. But He helped plot the whole thing out. Excellent with maps. And, a guy who speaks all these languages, went to Oxford, got a first. I never went to college. I only speak English. And you know what? If it wasn't for navigation, I would be lost literally all of the time. I have the directional sensibilities of a walrus in the Sahara. Like I said, our military heroes that have laid down their lives for us, especially in the case of our grandfathers, man, they were part of the greatest generation.
Yes.
We thank them today for sacrificing, and I would encourage you to call a veteran, call a family of a fallen soldier.
Yeah, what he
Visit
said.
a cemetery or a grave.